Today we are going to configure some simple web parts. You can start by opening Internet Explorer, which will take you to the SharePoint homepage. From here we want to navigate to the Labs site, where we are going to create a new WebPart page by going to Site Actions, Create, select WebPart Page and name it Exercise 1. We'll be using the left column, header, footer, top row, 3 columns template. We want to make sure that the page is going to be created in the document library. We hit create and we can see our WebPart page with the different web parts that we'll be able to configure. Using the breadcrumb navigation, we can go back to the lab site, and in here we see the Share Documents library on the left menu, where we can see all of the documents associated with that page, including the Exercise 01, which is the WebPart page that we created. Going back to this page, the lab site, we are going to practice on how to configure some of these web parts. Whenever you are on a page, you can go to Site Actions, Edit Page, to go to the Edit mode and configure these web parts. On the left column, I can click on Add a web part, which will bring up a menu with the different web parts that I can add to that specific column. I'm going to select Share Documents and click Add, and that will add a web part which allows me to see the documents in the Share Document library, which is the same that I can access from the left menu. On the right column, I can also click Add a web part, and I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom to find the OSIsoft web parts, and I'm going to select the one that says RT Gauge, and I'm going to click Add, and I will see the web part being displayed. To configure specific web parts, you can click on the Edit menu for the specific web part and go to Modify Shared Web Part. This menu will come up where you can select things like the tag, the PI tag that you will be monitoring with the RT Gauge web part. If you click on the tag search, we can enter here CDT asterisk and conduct a search for those tags. I come up with CDT 158 from the OSIsoft-TRNG PI server. I'm going to add that to my list and click OK. And I also want to modify the legend section of the web part by unchecking the dataset name and the title, and I also want to modify the different zones in the RT Gauge part, which is this blue, green and red section. By selecting each one of them, I can change the color. For zone 1, I'm going to select sky blue, and I'm going to change the percent that section will cover out of my gauge to 40%. I select zone 2, and I'm going to select the color powder blue, and I'm also going to change the percent that the zone covers to 20, and for the last zone I'm going to make that one gold and 40% of the gauge. Now that I completed those changes, I click OK, and I can see my new gauge with the new zones and the different percents that they cover. I can also reposition this web part by grabbing it and moving it, let's say, below the image web part. Once I complete the modifications, I can select Exit Edit Mode, and I can see the page that I modified in normal view. Okay, let's go back to the exercise 1 page that we created and go to Site Actions, edit the page so that we can add some web parts. To the left column, I click Add a web part, and I'm going to add 2 RT web parts, the RT time range and the RT tree view. Click Add, and the web parts show up on my column. To modify either one of them, click Edit, modify the share web part. For the time range, I want to change the orientation to vertical, which will stack the time fields one on top of the other and better use the space that we have available. To the center column, I'm going to add also 2 web parts. I scroll all the way to the bottom, and I want to add the RT graphic and the RT trend web part. Click Add, and I have those 2 web parts in the center column. Now I will finish modifying these web parts. I will continue with the RT tree view, which allows me to see a tree view of the modular database. By clicking on Modify the web part, I can go to Browse, and I can see my modular database, and the Learning Labs modular database is what I want to use as my root node. If I open that node, I can see 3 different units that I will be able to select from. I'm going to use unit 1 as the default node, and I can simply grab and drop in each one of these fields. I will use that as my default for the properties and aliases also. Click OK, and I can see my root node being displayed. By clicking OK, I finish the configuration, and I can already see the modular database being displayed. The way I'm going to use this web part is by selecting each one of these units and passing the information to the RT graphic, so that the RT graphic WebPart page can display the graphic associated with each one of these individual units. I click Edit, Connections, Send Parameters to RT Graphic. Now that I have that part of the connection configured, I can go to the RT Graphic web part, click Edit, modify the share web part, and go to the connection button under the selected file, and I can see that the connected web part is already here listed as the RT tree view, and I can select from its different properties. I'm going to select from graphic, which is what I want to display, and click OK. Once I do that, I see the associated graphic being displayed from unit 1. If I click on unit 2, I will see the graphic for unit 2 being displayed. Now I want to connect RT tree view web part with the RT trend web part in a similar way. Under RT tree view, I go to Edit, Connections, provide the parameters to RT trend, and now that I have that connection, I can go ahead and modify the RT trend by going to Edit, Modify the web part, and in here I'm going to go under Selected Data to the connection button again, and I can see the connected web part, and I'm going to select alias as the property that I want to display. I can see that the connection button turned green, meaning that there is a connection in the web part. I click OK, and I will be able to see the trend being displayed, which is the trend that is selected from each one of these units. If I select unit 3, I will see a different trend being displayed. Which trend is displayed is stored in the modular database, and which one is displayed here is selected by selecting each one of these different 3 units. With that, we conclude the configuration of our web parts, so we can go back up to the top of the page and exit the edit mode to see the page on its normal view, and we can see all of the features that we have available. As mentioned before, by selecting each one of the different units, we can display the graphic and the trend associated with that unit. By changing the time range from the default of 2 hours to, let's say, 72 hours, we click apply, and we see how the graphic and the trend is being updated. With the arrows, I can revert back to the default values. With the scroll back and forward, I can scroll in time through these graphs. If I double click in this small graph, the ad hoc trend will come up, which has again all of the same features that we are used to, such as zooming in and zooming out, reverting back, scrolling back through time. I can do the same with the RT trend by right clicking on it and selecting ad hoc. It creates an ad hoc trend for me. In the RT trend, I can also zoom in into a selected portion of the graph.